Good morning, Monday, August 11th. Oh, I'm lying. It's not a good morning. I don't know what exactly I was thinking about it being good, about going back to school because, you got you got to get up, and then you got to get your stuff ready, and then you got to run back downstairs and you got to get the kids' stuff ready, then record, then run back downstairs while it's rendering, get kid off to school, get yourself sort of ready. Like it's summer's not that long, right? Like we're talking May to August, and suddenly you get in this like, where you're on your own time. I've been running around like crazy and trying to get ready to come up here and record while like pre-prepping breakfast and doing all that stuff. And I'm getting ready and everybody's like, you get ready for this? And I mean, no, not really. I mean, like not officially get ready. But, but I'm going through the shirts that people are sending me. So, I mean, if you're listening to this and not watching it, I used to say, not my circus, not my monkeys all the time. And then I saw online, I love raccoons, trash pandas. And it was a little raccoon, and it was like, not my trash, not my dumpster. And I was like, okay, that's it. That's my new saying. So somebody sent me a not my trash, not my dumpster shirt. I mean, I'm not sure about the butterflies, but they don't. But anyways, I'm getting ready and I start spraying perfume, and I'm like, this is not, it's a podcast. It's not scratch and sniff. Like, what are you doing? And I realized I am all off kilter and more caffeine is needed. So, here we go. There is a lot to talk about, and I'm very excited, mostly because there was some things that happened this past week that I had to fight the urge. Not like I wanted to like put them, make a post and talk about them, but then I'm like, no, 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 save it for Monday. So I've been waiting for days to talk about some of these, and so we're gonna cover them. My phone started blowing up at the end of last week around the whole Crash Champions thing. So it was a whole week of Crash Champions. There was the Moody's report where they've been downgraded again. And then, um, the thing about PR is that you try really hard. Sometimes you try too hard. So sometimes you either hire an outside PR firm and they put you on this mission that's supposed to help investments and do whatever. And it may not align well. And so it didn't quite align well for Crash Champions that they tried to have like a trade show and an employee thing at the end of the week. And so it caused thousands of employees across the country to take to online to post their feelings, in addition to what felt like forced posts by employees that were there. But anyway, we're going to talk about some of that. We're going to talk about some terrifying ADAS testing that had gotten done earlier in the year. We'll go over it and give you a chance to go download that report yourselves. OEMs are demanding repair insights. They want copies of estimates, and they're going to review estimates, which is comical. Truthfully, I'm here for it. Like, I'm here for all of it. Like, every single bit of an OE that thinks that they want to do an estimate review and tell a shop what should or shouldn't be on an estimate, that one's going to get good. We're going to talk about some interesting insurance techniques that are the closing a file and what does that really mean, just in case you get hit with it. Ransomware attacks are increasing. We're going to talk about the staffing problems that this industry does not have. And this would be one of those, if you watched last week's podcast, one of those sipping the Frank Sinatra moments for me. For the last several years, I've been talking about we don't have this massive staffing problem that everybody seems to think that we have, or we have to go attract people to this industry. And so it was really interesting to see Mike Anderson's company put out a report that sort of says the same thing. Finally, I guess everyone can stop really just blaming me for saying that. And then we'll talk about what's on the shelf. So I'm just going to share one of my favorite books. I like to read. I think everybody should read, not consume little short videos. I do love the TED Talks, little short TED Talks, those are cool. But I think everyone should read books. So let's get started. We can get this week off right. Okay, ADAS testing is terrifying. So this was brought up at the recent, I think it was part of the CIC as well. There's been several articles on this that have also come out over the years around the ADAS components and Do they even stay calibrated? And what does it take to calibrate them and all this stuff? Essential Technologies and Burke Porter, I think when it comes to like ADAS and Burke Porter is one of those that's just, they're kind of up there. Burke Porter and Centric as a company. I know Centric has several different places around the country where they are setting up fixed calibration centers, but there's some, some people that sort of are at the top of the mountain or whatever. And I really respect Burt Porter. So this was a great report to kind of read, but it was interesting that it was discussed in this panel discussion or forum type thing that took place at CIC. And here's some things that they're talking about. Number one, these systems may not stay like you buy the car, it's calibrated. They may not stay calibrated. There's wear and tear and road and bumps and potholes and all these kind of things. Um, and then how you actually do this is critical. And I think the part of it that we know, a lot of us in the industry know, is that you can have a scan tool tells you something's done, but that doesn't mean it's done right. It's sort of like collision repair, right? Like you got shops that call the customer and say your car's done, come pick it up, but we know it's not really done right or safe or any of the other things. And so this report was very interesting in the things that it said. And one of the quotes out of it that I thought was pretty kind of grabs you by the attention is that if ADAS and everything is properly calibrated and working properly, it could prevent up to 62% of US road fatalities. Man, we've had so much improvement over the last 50 years in cars. We've made them softer, which means more people live. So we've done really great at absorbing collision industry and energy and all those things. And then ADAS is just one of those things that could just tick it up a notch. They had some statistics in there about collision mitigation braking and what it could do for rear end collisions and some other things. I loved this little segment out of it. The engineers evaluated multiple static and dynamic calibration methods, finding significant performance variance when targets were mispositioned as little as 1 degree. In real world terms, a sensor skewed by that margin could miss an object by several feet, the study warns. So if you get the target off, or by 1 degree, whether that's you put the target in the wrong place, your floor's not level, all of these different things. Jason Barton years ago made an analogy that it was like sighting in a rifle, which, I'm a redneck in Arkansas. I get that analogy. Like if I don't sight my rifle in right, that shot I miss at 50 feet I'm way off by the time I get 150 feet out in the field or whatever. So that very small amount of difference when you're close up, by the time it travels a distance, just it gets exponentially larger and larger. And that's kind of what this is. This 1 degree here can have several feet worth of difference on whether automatic braking works. And these static rigs that you need can be $25,000 to $75,000 a piece. And I've talked a lot about what really angers me more than anything is that this was presented to a lot of body shops as a profit center. And there's still people in this industry that go around and go, oh, you could bring this stuff in house. You'll increase cycle time. You'll make more money. All of these things. This is not a profit center. This is a safety center. This is something that we can't get wrong. Like even to a degree, like at 1 degree makes a difference. Like Bob, the detail tech should not be the scanning and calibration tech. Like I don't know how to drive that home any further. I ask shops all the time when they tell me they're going to take their detail guy and turn him into the calibration guy. I go, does he house sit for you? And they go, what do you mean? I go, when you go on vacation, does that guy come over and house sit for you? Does he babysit your kids? And they're like, God, no. I'm like, well, then why would you give him one of the most important safety jobs in the company if you wouldn't trust him with your house or your kids? Like that just is one of those things that sort of like blows my mind in this industry that we just think, anybody can do this. And I think some of it is because people that wanted to sell you stuff, somebody that wanted to sell you some $10,000 target system and a $500 scanning tool told you, Oh, this is so simple. Anybody can do it. And we'll hold your hand and we'll help you through it and we'll send you to a 2-day school or all of these different things. But this really is extremely serious. It's getting more serious. There was a video that went out, one of the ADAS guys I don't really like. But I'm not going to deny that he's good at what he does. I don't have to like you to know that you're good at what you do. Um, there's so many, there's almost this flood of legal cases around, whether it's Tesla, we talked about last week on their autonomous, which all autonomous is ADAS. It's just, um, there's been some death claims, some severe injury and paralyzation claims after accidents. Like there's a lot picking up, and it's all sort of swimming around ADAS. And when I think about this report and I think about how the car's probably not right sometimes when it even comes to us, like before the accident, it wasn't right. And then now it's in an accident and it comes to us. We're going to be the last, collision repairers are going to be the last ones that touch these cars before they go back out into operation. You don't get to get your response in a deposition or to a lawsuit can't be, well, it was probably screwed up before it got here. Like, you don't get to say that. If you're on some DRP programs, you most likely are not scanning and calibrating for what, they're, oh, it doesn't need that. It wasn't that big of a hit, or it wasn't hit there, or that system wasn't affected, or for whatever reason, you're being told not to put that on your estimate or, and then not do it. But now this is sort of like getting scarier, right? Like the, what you don't know can hurt you in a lot of ways. And this is one of them. It is so critical, shops, that like you really pay attention to the ADAS and what's required, what's recommended, that you're discussing this openly with the consumer. If the consumer doesn't want to pay for it and opts out of it or whatever, but you got to have that conversation. You just can't not have it and go, well, the insurance company's not paying for it. There's no point in me telling the customer. Or I've even had some insurers tell me that they don't want the shops telling the customers what they're not paying for. And I'm like, yeah, I'd be off the program. As soon as an insurer tells me I'm not supposed to tell the customer, yeah, I'm off that program. We're done, right? Um, but just having those conversations and protecting yourselves in whatever ways that you can, because this is like, I always tell people we struggle right now to know what we're supposed to know: welding, sectioning, um, alignment. Like, 'cause this is one of those things that I don't really, you don't either. There's not a shop. I don't care. I've had lots of body shops go, well, we were the first in this, Kristen, and we've invested. No, you haven't. You haven't. Like, you don't have a 25 to a $75,000 static rig, and you don't have dedicated buildings, and so no, you haven't. But it's really important that you know who's doing this for you, who you're outsourcing it to, that they know what they're doing, that they can't just come to your place and do it. So you can't just go, well, we outsource it, but they come here and do it. Because if your floor's not right and you're that 1 degree and all that stuff, then there's a potential problem. Now, Essential Technologies and Burke Porter have made this white paper available to the public. And what we did is we linked it so easier for you to find. You can just go to collisionhub.com. On the homepage, scroll down a little bit, and there'll be news. And you click right in there, and that's where there's news articles now. We're going to start posting. Last week I posted our C20 financial group. There's a quick little 3-page paper that explains the tax benefits from the One Big Beautiful Bill for individuals and businesses. And then also you'll find a way to get this white paper, and you can read it, and just some really cool information. They did a really good job on this. Definitely worth having. Definitely worth even like sharing with consumers when you're talking about this and you have an insurer that's saying, nah, the car doesn't need that and we're not going to pay for it, to be able to go, you know what, I can't tell your insurer what to do. I can't tell you what to do either, Miss Customer, but I want to make sure that you're aware of everything and that you make an informed decision for you and your family, right? That's the only thing that at the end of the day that we sort of have control over in this business. So make sure you are spending some time with it. All right, what's next? I know what y'all are wanting me to get to, and I'm going to make you watch a little bit longer before we get there. All right. I'd like to say this one's humoring me, but it's really more than anything making me angry. Our OEs, for whatever reason, I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's insurer influence. It's probably also a software company over promising and under delivering in a lot of ways. But we have multiple OEs that are now wanting estimate data. And for a variety of different reasons. For most of the OEs, when they originally thought that they wanted estimate data, it was just because they wanted parts information and how many parts are we selling, because ultimately these people have to report up to somebody that this division of the company, the certified collision division, means something and we should keep it. It costs, it's got a budget, it's got all these things. Do we keep it? Is it making money for itself? What's its ROI? And for a lot of people for a long, long time, that ROI was, we're going to encourage the sales of more parts. The sad thing is we're what, 14, 15 years into OE certified collision, and that OE to alternative part percentage is pretty much the same place it's been for the last 20 something years, about 80% OE parts, about 20% alternative parts. So nothing's really changed in the way that parts or how parts are consumed in this business. But shops started getting the emails. CCC was sending out emails allowing shops, if they wanted to opt in to data share. It's always hit that little trash button at the bottom. There's no benefit to you for sharing your estimating information with an OE. They don't know what the hell they're looking at. They just really don't. Um, Find me an OE, and it's just an open challenge. Whatever OE thinks that they have an estimating expert, I would love to meet them. Larry would love to meet them too. You know what? We could have a party. I mean, we'll come to you wherever you're at. I'll get Larry. The two of us will fly in. We'll meet you wherever you want, but we'd love to meet your OE estimate expert. And Tesla, that is specifically directed at you. So Tesla's been on a tear lately, sending shops emails like the one that you will see there. I've also gotten a lot of recorded phone calls with Tesla. People that are reviewing estimates, and it's real clear you don't know how to read an estimate, nor do you know how to fix the car. Why you're doing that, I don't know. You're almost turning over the underbelly of the company and inviting it to be stabbed by a class action lawsuit. But hopefully you've had a really good conversation with your legal team. I am very interested in the contract, and I still have them, for anything that specifically says that a shop has to turn over their estimate to Tesla, and that Tesla is going to tell them things to take off of the estimate or reduce labor times, procedures, processes, any of those things. And Tesla, no, you don't have anybody qualified to be reviewing estimates either. So open challenge. Like we'd love to come meet whoever it is, because the persons that have been calling shops to review their audit results clearly are not qualified. Since most of the time the response is, I'll have to take that back to the team. Who's the team? Right? Like, let's go ahead and what is it? Put out your roster, so to speak. Um, but we'd love to meet them, right? I'm sure the whole entire industry would love to meet the people that are actually reviewing these estimates and sending these notes back. Um, and more on who's been audited and why. And it seems these audits seem very targeted, but so more OEs are going to do this, looking for estimates. It's just not where the OEs belong. It's not. Um, I wish they would spend more time reviewing the inspection reports of the shops that are on their program, because there's a lot of shops that probably don't need to be OE certified at all. So maybe get a department and some people that do that instead of try to do this. But if you get a request from an OE for estimates and they're wanting to review your estimates or whatever, I sure would love to read that. I would also sure would like to read their results or their findings when they send that back to you. And if you get a note that says their findings have decided that they're taking you off the program, I sure would really like to know that too. So feel free to send those to us. or get to us anyway. All right, let's talk about what you all came to talk about. And we're going to talk about it because my email, my text messages, my Facebook messages, everything just got flooded over the week with the whole Crash Champions news and everything that was happening. So at the same time, they were having a conference down in San Diego, I believe is where it was. And so could not have been worse PR timing, right? Like you plan those things, and events like that aren't planned in a week. So events like that take almost a year of planning. And so I would doubt they would know Moody's was going to release what they released on Monday. Um, but it just didn't work out very well. So, all right. So on August 1st, Moody's sent out sort of like a public report. Now, I want to be clear. There was a January report from Moody's that downgraded Crash Champions Financing, which is the name for Crash Champions. And so there isn't like a subtle, a surprise, but I guess it was a surprise because it was more of a public announcement than anything else. All right, so this comes out on August 1st. They had been downgraded, or they have been downgraded to a CAA1 from a B3, and that is the probability of default. Um, and and from a CAA1 PD from a B3 PD. They also downgraded the company's senior secured first lien term loans. Those are, I believe, if I went back in August of 2020 or January of 2024, when another rating came out. Those were like $690 million worth of loans. I believe they have a term due of 2029 is when those loans are due, or what it said in 2024. Um, the senior secured first lien notes and the senior secured first lien revolving credit facility ratings to a CAA1. Um, so that's not good, right? It's like going to school, right? A C isn't necessarily a great grade. A B would be a better grade. So in January of 2024, the company had a rating that was stable. Now the company has a rating that is negative. So the outlook for the company has been changed from stable to negative. Now, um, I I just some of these screenshots from the conference were that people were sending me. And then I waited because I'm like, I'm not gonna share what somebody has texted me privately, but then people posted them publicly to LinkedIn, and I was like, oh goody, I'll be able to use these after all. So what does that mean? I want to go back a little bit. I want to go back to January of 2024 when S&P Global did sort of a recovery analysis of Crash. You can find this. This is public as well. Um, some of the interesting things that was in 2024. So I think a lot of people have been hearing me talk over the last year and a half or a couple of years about how sort of some of the MSOs have gotten a little too big. There's that makes them vulnerable to markets. It's almost like sort of a house of cards, and there's some potential problems there. And a lot of people are like, MSOs are growing crazy, and there's new ones popping up every year that are growing from 50 stores to 100 stores or whatever. And you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, I don't know what I'm talking about. Right, I'm fine with that. Like I always tell people, and I got several calls last week. In the back of my mind, Fox Collision and M2 still scare me. And if you've been around a long time, you remember those two incidences of bankrupted MSOs. I mean, and they weren't huge, right? But you remember that. And as a claims person, that makes me super duper wary of a lot of things. But what was interesting in January 2024, and I kept this and I had it in a folder, and I thought I'm going to go pull this back up. So S&P Global said our simulated default scenario assumes a payment default occurring in 2025, which will be caused by one or more of the following: a sustained economic downturn that reduces collision repair volumes at the company's retail stores. Uh-oh. Well, we kind of had that happen, right? The limitations on bill rate increases with insurance carrier customers, challenges in retaining body technicians. I think every MSO struggles to retain. Like they somewhat what do I want to say? Um, you work to attract talent, you promise sign-on bonuses and a lot of things, and then then you got to keep them once you get them over there. But limitations on bill rate increases. Yeah. This year we had insurers going around lowering labor rates, like paying everybody $4 or $5 less an hour. We had more squeeze on severity, like to lessen the repair bills. So that started happening. So we've had by one or more of the following. Well, I can check two boxes already. And then at the bottom, simulated default assumptions, year of default 2025. Now, remember, this came out in January of 2024. It was public as well. It made the rounds. A lot of people in the industry were looking at it. You got to remember, there was a lot of debt involved with Service King coming into the to the picture, and so Service King had gone under, right? Like it was full of debt, and so then you add these facilities, and I still look back at that and go, what? Why? Like that didn't work. Why did you think you could make it work? And then why did you bring all the Service King people over? I mean, like clearly running a profitable business was not like one of their strong, but this industry does that a lot. People like have businesses that they bankrupt them, they go under, and then those people pop up and suddenly they're the CEO of another company over here or the CFO. And I'm thinking, in my world, when you fail, you don't get another opportunity to do the same thing to another business. Like, just I don't get it. But anyway, so all right, so let's go back to what Moody said. So we had this foreshadowing in 2024 by S&P. And then Moody's put out their article on August 1st. If we read through the Moody's article, it says the downgrade reflects what we expect the weakness of Crash Champion's credit metrics and free cash flow to persist for some time. Overall, industry repairable claims volumes remain very challenging, which is constraining Crash Champion's top line growth and earnings, despite it taking steps to deepen relationships with insurance carriers to grow repair volumes. That sentence doesn't even make any sense to me. Like, I mean, you're in the system, right? Like you're up there, like the customers get to choose, right? But there's multiples of y'all, right? There's Calibers, there's Gerbers, there's Hudsons, there's right, there's a lot of you suckers out there that are in that customer's choice. No insurance company is going to just say direct feed one particular MSO. um, and then how do you deepen a relationship with it? Like for where we are right now, how does it get deeper? Like I don't like I had several calls last week from several people in insurance industry, claims management, VPs of claims, etc. And I'm like, and I asked, how do you get deeper at this point? Like is it a discount? Is it more discount? Is it promising? Like what would it take? And the people that that were like, we don't know what that would possibly look like right now. Uh, how that would get deeper. Making progress on growing its high margin scanning and calibration business. Hey, all you scanning and calibration people out there, after the Aztec thing and the pricing, and then now State Farm with pricing, is scanning and calibrations a high margin business? Because it doesn't seem, I mean, when I would think about the insurance, like the liability insurance and everything I would have to have for owning a calibration business, that doesn't seem like it's overflowing with profit and like it's profit center. Didn't we just talk about that? Like in a real, like stop looking at scanning and calibration as profit center, because it's a liability center as well. But if you're out there scanning and calibration people, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is a printing of money business or whatever. It just doesn't feel that way from this side of the fence. And focusing on operating cost. Okay, that just means let's figure out a way to cut money from the budget. Now we know about 30 something weeks ago, there was people posting all over the internet that not, I won't say pay had changed for like estimators and front office people, like new pay plans didn't have the same bonuses. It felt like estimators were going to be making less in the front offices. I had some people write me and say, hey, I can't keep my job anymore. I'm going to lose about 25%. And so I can't pay my bills and I'm going to have to go do something else. All right, let's keep reading through this. Relationships with leading national insurance carriers, which represent the vast majority of the company's revenues and earnings. That's not something to be proud of. And I know a lot of this when I get so I get called all the time by, I guess, investment research people. They say that they represent large funds and they're considering an investment in the collision repair space. And I'm on this list, and there's a bunch of it. Mike Anderson's on the list, and Mark Olson gets called every now and then too to talk about the collision repair business. And being dependent on insurance companies is something that's been promoted. Like in a way, everybody tries to make it seem like that this is almost like a recession-proof business. When people wreck their cars, they have to get them fixed, and insurance companies pay the claims, not the people. So there's always a money source and some of those things. And that's not quite the case when the carrier, if you have one line of money and it's insurers and the insurers squeeze that line, that's not necessarily a bonus. And I think that's what's happening now, that river that is starting to get squeezed a little bit. And that's where everybody, if there's even a small marginal change in that volume, it has I guess it's like, sort of like the ADAS thing we talked about, right? If you're 1 degree off here, by the time you get down here, you're millions of dollars off. So demand fundamentals are strong as vehicle miles traveled grow and repair severity. Okay, so this is where I get mad at like the CCCs of the world for the way that they sort of print, they take the crash course and they kind of like present it in a way that every year it's sort of like the twist to give the most favorable outcome. And I know that everybody wants sunshines and roses and rainbows and unicorns and all those things, but we're just not there right now, right? We're not in a sunshine land. Um, let's just be honest. Miles driven is growing, but claim count's not growing. Repair severity is up. Yep. And total losses are up, which is why we just had an entire meeting devoted to total losses, is that severity as it grows, as those estimates and the amount of parts and all of this stuff continues to the complexity of vehicle technology continues to rise. All of that stuff that's in this report, that means less cars. So as an MSO, you don't make money on total losses, right? So as that severity rises and increases, as as the complexity continues to change, as all of that stuff continues to happen, then there's less cars. So that's not a positive thing either. We keep on reading down there. The free cash flow is negative $97 million right now. We've talked a lot about collision repair being a cash flow dependent business. You gotta buy materials, you gotta buy parts, you gotta buy all of these things that you have to fix a car. Going deeper into the report, it, they believe, so Moody's believes that the problems will persist for the remainder of 2025. They do not see this getting better on 2025. And then it says a rebound. What will affect it? Depends primarily on a rebound in overall industry repairable claims volume with a solid progress in top line growth. There's nobody that is anticipating a return of claims volume, right? Like we reported claims continues to be projected as continuing to shrink. We have insurance companies taking victory laps over that right now. And then of the reported claims, 40x, 45, 47%, depending on which report you read, is projected to be total losses. I don't think a lot of those will be total losses that come to the field. I think a lot of those are going to be well, we'll take one of their words, top line pull offs, right? Early tow programs, etc. There's just less cars. We need less cars, less shops, less demand, less everything all around. It goes back to, what was projected in 2015 that didn't happen is kind of here now, right? We were 10 years wrong on the report, but and I still go back and try to, like, I keep wanting to dig all that stuff out. Um but anyway, so that's where they are, right? And that makes total sense. I think for everybody in the industry right now, looking at it goes, yep, it makes sense. There's less cars, there's less claims, there's less repairables within that. There are more constraints. The insurance companies are saying no to more and more things, taking more and more things off the estimate, saying no more and more to items, line items, and things on the estimate that you want to estimate for. It's harder and harder to get paid. So yeah, all that makes sense as to why that would be a problem. Do we see a rebound of that? Um, no. And I don't, if you look at it, when we talk about deepening those relationships with the insurers this past week took a victory lap. So Geico claims a huge profit surge, and they credit it because, what did they say there? Lower claims frequency on its loss ratio. In other words, there's less claims, less reported losses, less claims, we make more money. So we get to grow premium base, and then there's less claims. And so that's money. Allstate over here increases their revenue by 16.6 billion with a net income of 2.1 billion. So those insurance partners that everybody's looking at trying to deepen their relationships with, it means you don't make money. Like I'm not really, like, I guess if I'm a Wall Street person and I've not been in the collision repair business and I don't understand, it sounds like, oh, the insurance companies are our primary customer and we'll go be nicer to them and we'll make more money if we're nicer to them, or we give them, some sort of deal or whatever. That's not how this works. I feel like it's the Progressive commercial. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works, right? Like, like you've spent the last year to 2 years giving insurance companies whatever they've asked you for. You've deepened that relationship, I think, as far as it can go. They've made hella money. 2.1 billion is pretty good money, right? Like, Geico's making record profits. Allstate's making record profits. All the insurance companies over the last year and a half have just been boasting about how much they're making, but the body shops keep making less. These two don't go together. You don't make more money by being friends with an insurance company. You don't make more money by being on a DRP program. There's not a piece of evidence in the history of this industry where those two things go together. I feel like was it Captain Kangaroo, or was it one of these things are not like the other? Was that Sesame Street? It was Sesame Street. One of these things is not like the other. But like I don't understand where that disconnect is between investment people and people in this business that seem to think that I can volume my way to success, right? Like, those days, volume days are over. Like, the insurers, you're on the DRP program, you're in the national MSO part of the DRP program, you're offered to customers before independent collision repairs, dealerships, and all that stuff are. But you're not the only one, right? So there's three or four national MSOs and the customer. So you can, like, nowhere in these articles, whether it's Moody's, whether it's S&P Global, nowhere in any of those articles is the customer ever discussed. It's always like the insurer is the customer. But ultimately, someone has to choose your shop, right? They've got to decide, I want to go there. Like, an adjuster is going to go, hey, you can use our DRP program. They're going to give you the top three names that come up based on whatever that KPI report is or whatever. And typically it's magically always a national MSO. And the customer's going, well, where? I don't know where it's at. Well, there's this one that shows that it's half a mile from you. Great, I'll go to that one. Right? Nobody's like choosing your business for whatever reason. But there's no getting in deeper with an insurance company. Like, I would think all of the MSOs have done that. whether we disagree or agree on your business model or whatever. I think we can agree you all decided to deepen your relationship with insurers, and this is where it got you. Everybody's hurting, not just Crash, but everybody's hurting except the insurers who are bringing in profits that are surging, record breaking profits, record breaking premiums, all of these things. They're doing great. Our side, not doing so well at all. So this had another component to it that I thought, man, the PR the PR bug has bit some people in this industry lately. And I always go, the last thing in the world you want to do is hire an outside PR company to be your PR agency in the collision repair business. So this summit was going on. Like I said, my phone was blowing up. Employees were angry. Um, and I know that we can make videos and we can put out the rah-rahs and put out all that stuff, but between the Facebook messages, the DMs to the Collision Hub page, the direct emails, the direct text messages, employees were just angry, right? Here's this report that says we're losing money. It says that these things have to happen for things to get better. We know those things aren't going to happen, which is why there was just a total loss summit, which is why there's all these other things. And so I'm scared, right? I'm scared of losing my job. I'm scared of everything falling in, whatever. And then there's these posts getting made as if nothing is wrong, right? And I think that's PR. This one caught my eye. Now, you ever heard that saying? What is it? You can have it cheap, good, and fast. You can have, two of the three, but you can't have all three. I mean, that whole thing. This slide got put up, and this is what scares me, right? So when we get to these things, human beings have a survivability component to them, right? Um, we get very protective. Like, I'm going to get mine. I'm going to make my living. I got to feed my family. All of these things that humans do. Um, so this screen pops up at the conference. The five things, I guess, the five things we got to do. These screenshots and images started getting sent to me by employees, and they were like, "What is this? What are we going to do with this, Kristen? This terrifies me more than the Moody's report or whatever." Must fix cars well. Maybe fix cars right. Maybe fix cars accurately. Like, I would have chosen a better word, right? Um, Make customers happy. I love that one. I love that it's on top of the insurance, but you can't make customers happy, make insurance partners happy, and make your employees happy. Like I learned a long time ago in management that I got customers, I got employees, I got bosses. I will never make all three of those people happy, right? It doesn't exist. One of the things I loved about um the early years of the farm, and you'd be in corporate and you'd have conversations with Ed Rust, and what I enjoyed was they were always like, just make the customer happy, Kristen. Just focus there. If you'll just do the customer, make them happy, we'll figure everything else out. I loved that. It was wonderful. Um, but you can't make customers, insurance partners, they're not your partner, but you can't make it customers, insurance partners, and employees happy. That you can never, I can't imagine a situation where all three of those, where there is a possibility of making three of those happy. If I make the customer happy, probably the insurance company's not going to be happy. If I make the employee happy, probably the insurance company's not going to be happy. If I make the insurance company happy, that probably means I'm not doing something to the customer's car that I should have, and I'm not paying a technician to do something that I should have. Or I'm asking a technician to redo something, or I'm asking a technician to take a negative supplement 2 months after the car's delivered. Like there's all these things that in my mind, those they don't go together. And then at the bottom, if I want to make money, right? Are you going to make an insurance partner happy and make money? Like, because they want to pay as least as possible to get a car repaired. They don't necessarily care if it's accurate, right? We're gonna throw in seatbelt inspections. I don't know, still don't understand what State Farm was thinking is thinking with that one, but I those five things, it's almost like I can't do that, right? Like just bad timing. So you had all these people losing their minds online because this comes out at the first of the week and then this starts happening at the end of the week. And it feels like PR companies were sort of telling people what to post, hashtags and what to use. So it felt very much like an orchestrated PR thing. Almost like we're fine, everything's fine. This is great. We're just so happy. This is wonderful. Like it felt very orchestrated PR like. Um, and so the people from the outside were kind of like, and not from the outside, people that were even there were like screenshotting and sending me stuff going, can you believe they put this up on the screen? But that's just bad PR timing. Like it really couldn't have happened at a worse time. Like if this would have happened, like whether they'd have had the conference and then maybe a couple weeks later Moody's would have came out, or if Moody's would have came out 2 weeks ago and then they had the conference, but like for them both to come out at the same time, that was just like a really bad PR thing. But part of the scary thing, and it's not necessarily a Crash Champions problem, is that the DRP world doesn't work anymore. Like there's just the math ain't mathin'. Um, Wish it did in some ways. I mean, if I go back and think about how what the ease of service is for being able to straight line process claims through a DRP versus having an adjuster handle them, there's some benefits there. But for a shop perspective, the math just doesn't math, really. I mean, the insurer's goal is to keep repairs as low as possible, to push as much of the cost as they can to you, operational, admin, rental. I mean, they're even making you pay for rentals, like push as much as that operational cost as they can off on the shop to lower all of their expenses so that they make record breaking profits. It doesn't work if both of you make profits, then one person's losing. So if a shop is making money, the insurance company's losing. If the insurance company's making these record-breaking profits, like these things don't go together. The way the car and the technology and everything has changed, I just don't see DRP working at all. And that's a big thing for us to think about because there's so many models, business models for large companies that have been built on this DRP assumption or a DRP based type model. And 20 years ago, it worked. I mean, it still weren't fixing cars necessarily the right way, but it worked. And it was the golden years. And I feel like it was the 90s of NACE before SEMA. Like the 80s of NACE were beautiful. Like I mean, like 80s, 90s. I mean, like it was amazing. The parties were great and everything was wonderful. And then budgets contracted and we weren't throwing the big events like they used to at NACE or SEMA or whatever. So um 10, 20 years ago, an MSO model founded in the, with a foundation in the DRP worked. It did. I think that those days are gone, and I think we're starting to see sort of those problems really start to bubble up. It's not one provider that's, really having to look at things and going, wait, why aren't we making money? And, what's happening and what are we doing right now? Independent shops that are on DRPs are having to have the same conversations with themselves, like, hey, why aren't we making money like we used to anymore? And, my cash reserves are way lower than what they used to be. Why am I burning through cash more than I ever did? It'll be interesting to see what happens, right? Like from 24 to 25, we've had this, public display of finances. We've gotten to peek behind the curtain at a Crash Champions. We've not gotten to do that for Caliber. Caliber's now going to go public, which means they're going to open those books up, and a lot of people are going to come in and out. And so, what are the answers? I firmly don't believe the answer is ADAS. I don't think that's a cash profit center. I think it's a liability center more than anything. As we see those lawsuits pick up, and with Tesla getting hammered last week, it'll just be more and more and more. All right, so this is my victory lap moment. Yeah, I love them. So this came out, Crash Network, old Mike Anderson's Who Pays for What survey. And they found that 30% of the shops said they were looking to hire a body technician, a surprising statistic amid a years long technician shortage, the most recent industry data from TechForce. Basically, the shops reported that they're not really looking for anybody right now. Um, what we kind of always said, we didn't have a technician problem, we had a shop problem. We had too many of them. There was just too many shops out there. Um, a lot of them not, I don't want to say not staffed appropriately, but not equipped appropriately to like fix cars the right way. And that the market would somewhat right itself. And that's happened. So last year, I think looking at the numbers that we were seeing, 300 and something shops had closed, not sold, closed. We've seen more of that over 2025. We've seen more shops just kind of like close up their doors. We've had several we posted online. We asked some shops to write in, and we had some people going, "Hey, last year there was 4 shops in my town, and now it's it. I'm it. I'm the only one left." Um, so that's that market adjustment or self adjustment, so to speak, starting to take place. I've spent the last 10 years sort of preaching we're spending money in the wrong places, but there was grant money floating around, and there was all these people that came to the industry and was like, "Oh, we have to do something to attract more technicians or more kids that want to enter this industry and all that." I'm like, we're gonna have to repurpose a lot of people when these other shops close and some things happen. We're going to be repurposing. We've seen some of the MSOs draw down, like they've not renewed leases in certain areas. And so those shops have closed, and we've ended up having to sort of absorb those people in those markets. And so um, it's definitely something to think about for shops, but it's something that we need to think about in a completely different way. So in other words, it's time that we re-envisioned the body shop, its job duties, descriptions, everything. Um, how do we not be Blockbuster, right? Like how does that not happen one day we wake up and or we're Kodak and we're 100-year-old company going out of business because the times moved with them. But we've not revisited the body shop in a long time. We still have the same job duties. We have the same titles. We have estimators and technicians and painters, and about the only thing in the shop that's really changed is we brought in computerized estimating. Other than that, we're still kind of doing things the same way. Well, the cars have changed. How we fix them has changed. The skill set to do that has changed. And a lot of people go, "Oh my God, it's more technical." You're right, but I only probably need one highly trained technician. I need a lot of people that can righty tighty, lefty loosey, right? Like, and then we're going to have to get prepared for turnover. So the way that the millennial generation, 35 and under, it has nothing to do with you or your culture. They want to change jobs every couple of years. They want to. I have a turnover here. I deal mostly with younger, video production, photography, editing, those kind of people, and they'll leave. And it's like it's not that they hate or you should have done something better or whatever. It's just they want to do something different. I want to try something different. I want to go here. I want to move here. I want to live here for a while or whatever that is. And that change in human nature of not necessarily I'm going to get a job and I'm going to stay there till I get the golden watch and retire and all that. Our industry isn't necessarily prepared for that. We don't know how to hire and train, how to prepare for someone to leave. And so if the wrong person leaves, sometimes it can cripple an entire industry or not an industry, but an entire body shop or whatever. So definitely something for shops to really think about. Um, are you are you turnover secure? In other words, if you lost a tech today, would you know what to do? If you lost an estimator, would you know what to do? If you lost your painter, would you know what to do? Um, how are you sort of turnover proofing your business and then planning for change? Because it's just going to happen. One of the probably the safest things to be, and you saw in that the S&P Global Outlook on crash in 2024 is that being able to retain and keep technicians and all that. Um, One of the best things is going to be independent businesses, family owned business, because typically in a family business, you're the janitor, you're the estimator, the painter, the body, like you can do it all. And so if somebody quits, you just, hey, I got to step out my office and I'm going to have to go back to painting this week or doing whatever. And I think those businesses are sort of transition proof as this industry starts to transition. They're going to be very well established to stay open. And some shops that just have a manager and that manager doesn't really do anything and they lose the painter and they lose a body tech or whatever, then it may prevent them from surviving in a lot of ways. So, some interesting things to think about. All right. So this started happening probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Shops were calling in and trying to get supplements or whatever, and the adjuster would just say, "Oh, the file's closed." And the shops would call me and go, "Well, they said the file's closed, Kristen, and there's nothing I could do." And I would chuckle, and then didn't really think about it until this guy, and I cut his stuff off because he's a public adjuster, homeowners. So his focus is homeowners, but he made this post, and that happens a lot in homeowners claims. Like it takes you a while after you've had a loss, let's say roofing or whatever. Hailstorm comes through your area, you file a claim, you get your roof paid, and it may be 6, 8 months before you can find a roofer. You got to get in line. So when it's time to like actually get your repairs done, you call in and the claim's closed. Well, hell yeah, the claim's closed. I'm not going to keep it open, right? I've made a payment, close the file. Um, I've got a open count. There's no point in having a claim open. But closing a file from an insurance perspective doesn't mean that the claim's closed forever, right? So now this tactic is starting to happen on auto, and I think what it is that a claim comes in, an estimate is written. Maybe it's what do I want to say? A photo-based estimate, and they do the initial payment, automatic deposit into the account or whatever, and that thing may diary a week or 2 weeks or whatever. Customer's driving around going, I'm not really thinking about it right now. And the file closes. Typically, a DRP selection triggers an automatic reopen, but a non-DRP selection, they don't automatically trigger that reopen. So the shop goes to send a supplement in and gets the whole, this claim is closed. I, it's not, I had a conversation on one last week. It's not an intention. So this guy seems to make it as though it's sort of like insurance company does that on purpose and they tell you that your file's closed to see if you'll go away. Um, I just don't think that the adjuster knows that they can open it. I mean, that's like the conversation I had last week. They were like, but it's closed. Like they didn't, and they didn't know what to do. So it wasn't like they were not trying to get out of paying extra money on this claim. I don't think they knew what to do. But just so that we can talk about this in case you run into it or it starts to happen more and more, because if you don't want a whole lot of open claims on a staffing model is a problem. So if insurance companies are looking at changing staffing models, keeping staffing numbers low, in other words, I'm staffed at, let's say I've got 500 people in a call center. When you look at open claims, if that's high, then there may be a statistic or a ratio that says I'm understaffed, right? So you may have a push where you have a claim center pushing to close files because of something else that's in staffing that you haven't even thought about, looked at, or you even know exists. But in case this happens, a file, me closing a file as an adjuster, sort of means nothing other than my staffing. And basically, that's how I staff. Open files is part of my staffing. And then open files is part of file review. So after the file's open for a certain amount of time, you have to do a file review, and why is this still open? And do I need to reset reserves? And if the file is open, those monies that are reserved to that file technically aren't sort of being used. There's a whole process we used to teach. So a lot of times we'll close files. But that file remains openable. That's what I used to always tell my people. I can close it and then I can just reopen the damn thing. Like it remains openable for whatever the statute of limitations are on the loss, or if the person signs a release. So if it's a first party or a third party, I have the whatever the statute is. So if that's 3 years, that claim can be reopened at any time if new information, et cetera, blah blah is presented. Or if they sign a full and final release, then that file is closed forever. I've seen some releases floating around lately that look like you're just settling like the RTA, but it's actually a full and final release. And if it gets signed, it may prevent you from rental and a whole other bunch of stuff out there, specifically on these states that have third parties are allowed to do RTA. So, but anyway, this guy had some really great things here, like push back immediately. Yeah, you don't want to do that in writing. Basically, are you refusing to reopen my file? I show the statute of limitations in blank state to be X whatever, and I have information of damages owed as a result of this. Like, definitely push back, demand their documentation. If they're refusing it, why? Why are you refusing it? And you may need to engage experts. And so, what I thought was interesting on this one is we're seeing that more and more. Um, Technically, go back to the Mississippi Katrina issue. Um, when expert information is presented, an insurer cannot ignore that. If they do ignore it, then that's really sort of a one of the textbook bad faith things. I'm seeing more and more auto. We do experts and homeowners all the time, whether it's a concrete expert or an engineer or a whatever. We constantly have experts giving opinions on what's wrong with the house. We're starting to see that need um, happening in auto claims. Like almost you have to have an expert write a report when an insurance company refuses a supplement as to what the consequences are for refusing the supplement. And there's some really good people in the industry that are writing those reports. You've got Olson, you've got Larry, you've got Billy Villali, you've got Robert McDormand down in Texas. There's a lot of people, um, using expert reporting. It's something we've used in whether it's been bodily injury mitigation, whether it's been whatever, but now it's starting to get its way into auto claims. We've had it in homeowners for forever. And so I just thought it was interesting. Last couple of weeks, I've had a couple shops call me and say the insurer says the file's closed. Like I tried to send my supplement in, Kristen, and they called back and said the file was closed. And I was like, probably the customer waited forever. I was dealing with a shop last week that had a lost date of 2024, and it was just now getting into the shop. And I'm like, of course the file's closed. Yeah, makes total sense. Just be aware that a file can be closed for a lot of reasons by an insurance company that benefits them in the way that they manage or handle their staff. But for whatever the statute of limitations are, that claim is reopenable. Like, I don't think that's a word, but maybe I'm going to patent that word and use it. So just keep that in mind as you navigate what is becoming this crazy world of claims. All right, ransomware attacks. Dude, this one's getting crazy. Okay, so Tuesday night, hundreds of salvage yards were attacked by ransomware. You can see Solera owns Hollander, which is a big, Hollander's kind of, I would say, the software for salvage, recycle facilities or whatever. Basically saying, hey, we're not the cause of it, but we're helping you out. There's a ton of posts that started from people, seeing that they were hit. They would release a statement. Yards using it are dead now. At least car part is up and running. I'm losing revenue by the minute. Um, so it's one of those things. We got hundreds of salvage yards. It may be an affecting last week your ability, if you were trying to source recycled parts or whatever, it may have been affecting your ability to do that. I saw nothing come across from CCC about it, how it was affecting how they were integrating back and forth with these salvage yards. Um, Not new. So 2016, there was also a large attack on the recyclers around that information. 2019, Gerber got attacked on a ransomware attack. They were confident that no consumer or policyholder information had been released. And then last year and in 2023, so 23 and 24, multiple jobbers, distributors across the industry also were experienced with ransomware attacks. And so it's picking up, right? Not a lot of like direct attacks on individual shops, attacks on software that's associated with it. As more and more things become integrated, right? We have like estimating systems that want to do everything for you. They want to text customers. They want to be your estimating system. They want to order your parts. They want to do all these things. And then you're integrating that. You may be including credit card information, whatever. These attacks are ramping up. Nobody's probably sitting in whatever country thinking I'm going to attack Bob's Bodyshop, but whether it's there was some, whether it's carpart.com, whether it's Hollander, whether it's eBay Auto Store, like whatever it is that was kind of like this thing, those things are picking up. So it's really important just as shops that you really think about ransomware, that you think about where your information is backed up to and where would you get it. And I know so many shops like I don't like CCC. I made it pretty. I mean, I like the people that work there. They're nice people. I just don't like corporately what CCC became. But I know they spend a lot of money and time trying to prevent attacks, but they are well aware that they are housing a lot of data that a lot of people, like insurance companies, body shops, everybody. So they're I'll give them that. They do they are very active in protection. But I know for most shops, man, if CCC goes down for a day, all of you suddenly go online and start complaining like you've lost your child. Like, can't do anything. CCC's down. Who else is down? What are we gonna do? Whatever. Just be very aware if you're singularly dependent on something. What would it take for you to get back up and running? What do you have, like cost wise? Do you need insurance against ransomware attacks? Should you purchase a policy? Who are you linking up with? Whether that's you're sending some data to enterprise and you're sending some data to CCC and you're sending some data to your paint company through your mixing scale. Like how many different interaction points do you have in which a virus and ransomware can enter your facility? And then like what protections do you have? Like companies spend a lot of money, they're aware of it, but as these things pick up and just seem to be happening more and more and more in our industry, like I was hoping just go attack the banking industry, right? Like spend all your time over there. But as more of that happens to us, just a reminder for shops to spend some time and money on, are you protected? I know, like, so one of the things for our website is I don't take credit card. People call me all the time and go, yeah, just run my credit card, Chris. And I go, I don't have it. Like I won't keep credit card numbers because if I store credit card numbers, my insurance from ransomware attacks goes through the roof. Also, my liability insurance, like if like it took your information, so there's then the suits I would get back for having exposed people's personal information, like that policy goes through the roof. So I like on our website, we don't keep and store credit cards because I just didn't want that liability. Um, so yeah, something to think about. Keeping an eye on that. I know Solera is working their butt off. I know a lot of people are mad, but when you're having to reboot hundreds of and reinitialize, and I'm sure their tech team was working over the weekend to try to get these distributors set back up. It'll be interesting to see how that affected. I guess estimating for us whether we were able to make connection and view inventory and rate parts and. Hmm, all of those things. I didn't remember seeing anything last week with shops complaining about connectivity on parts. So, all right, what's on the shelf? And then we'll get you back to your regularly scheduled program for um, the day. Wow, I need more caffeine. So I was in like a football fog too this week. Like, so football's back, right? So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I had football. And so I just really sat and watched football. So I gotta get my brain back. All right, so what's on the shelf? Books. I think everybody should read. I think you should probably at least set a goal for yourself of a book a quarter. That's not tearing up the world, folks. That's a book every 3 months. But a book every quarter. But I do like to read. This is one of my favorites. It's called The Wisdom of Psychopaths. I always thought that this was fitting for our industry, but Kevin Dutton is one of my favorite psychology authors, so to speak. This book is wonderful. Specifically, if you have painter, like if you're managing the painters, this is the one you need, right? Like this is your book right here. But no, it's just a really good one. I pulled it off the shelf again a couple of weeks ago. I was flying out, and I thought something had happened, and I thought, where was that? Where did that come from? And I was like, oh, I got to reread that book again. So I'll pull a lot of books off the shelf and start over every now and then, but definitely try to make yourself a pledge that you'll read a book a quarter. Like you got to protect your brain. I think one of the things we talk about critical thinking and critical thinking skills and that you need to have them in this industry. Protect your brain so that when things are presented, like you go to a trade show and somebody stands up and speaks and gives you a speech, can you think through what they're saying and does it make sense and does it align with other things that you've, and then can you remember the things from 2 or 3 years ago and kind of put it all together? Like just train your brain. Um, you know, I shop. People go to the gym. People will, eat healthy foods. They'll do all of those things. But then, what are we doing to train our brain? So, definitely, it is a great book. I promise you, if you read it, you're gonna all send me messages and go, "Oh my God!" And you're gonna have one part of the book that just resonates with you for forever. But that's about it, folks. It's going to be third, fourth quarter. It's going to be some very interesting times for us. So the main thing is to just get ourselves ready and start thinking about the way that you can control what you can. So control the controllables. Basically, look right directly in your front lobby and figure out the things that you can actually influence and work on those things, and don't let a lot of other things catch your attention. And now's not the time for really struggling, straying off into left field. I've had some shops call me and go, "Hey, so and so, this, this company came by and they offered this, and they were going to give me a coach, and that coach was going to do these things." And talked to the shop for a little while. I went, "Now's not your time. It's just not the time for that. There will be a time for that, hopefully, maybe next year. But right now, you need to focus on your four walls and what's going on from the lobby inwards. Like that's really where we want your time and attention and everything at right now. Um, you don't need any harebrained ideas. And those include the ones that come from me, right? Like you don't need anything from me right now. You don't need anything from any other, consultants or paint companies or whatever. Now's the time that you just focus on your four walls and your lobby. And if you'll just do that for the next 2 quarters, we'll get back together in December and see how things are going. And then if there's things that you want to try new, if there's new anything new that you want to implement or learn about or whatever, we'll cross that bridge then. But I'd say right now it's just a matter of control the controllables, and that's what's in your walls. That's about the only thing you can work on right now. So I will see you guys next week with Collision Coffee Talk. If you need me, you know where to find me. And good news, Melanie's back, so you can send those emails to Melanie, and things will get handled because between Melanie and Holly, that's where the work's done. I'm just wandering around, talking on the phone, making people mad. So see you guys later. Have a fantastic week.